The laughter was deafening. Inside Lincoln High School's auditorium, a group of students sat in the back row, nudging each other, their eyes fixed on the stage. A girl stood there, frozen under the spotlight. Her name was Lily Thompson, and she looked nothing like the kind of kid who belonged on a stage. Her sneakers were torn, her jeans had patches, and her hoodie was 2 sizes too big. "Why is she even up there?" Someone snickered loudly. Another voice called out, "She's going to make a fool of herself." The crowd erupted into giggles, their cruel whispers bouncing off the walls. Lily's hands trembled around the microphone. She could feel her heart pounding in her chest, faster and louder than the crowd's laughter. She hadn't signed up for this. Her name had been put on the list as a joke. The popular kids thought it would be hilarious to see the quiet, invisible girl choke in front of the whole school. Her throat tightened. Her knees felt weak. For a split second, she imagined bolting off the stage, disappearing into the shadows, and never coming back. But then, she remembered her mother's voice the night before. Lily, when the world tries to silence you, sing louder, because your voice is stronger than their laughter. The words replayed in her mind like a lifeline. She gripped the mic tighter, took a deep, shaky breath, and closed her eyes. The first note slipped out, soft, almost fragile. The crowd went silent, shocked by the sound they didn't expect. Her voice carried something raw, something real, like pain wrapped in beauty. And with every word, every note, the laughter died. One by one, heads lifted, mouths shut, and eyes widened. For the first time in her life, Lily wasn't invisible. For the first time, the world was listening. Long before she ever stood under those stage lights, Lily's world had always been small. A tiny 2-bedroom apartment on the rough side of Cleveland was where her story began. The carpets were old, the paint on the walls cracked, and the fridge often echoed with emptiness. Her father had walked out when she was only 8 years old. One argument too many, one responsibility too heavy, and then he was gone. That left her mother, Angela, to raise Lily and her little brother, Daniel, all on her own. Angela worked double shifts at a diner, sometimes coming home past midnight, her hands sore from carrying trays, her eyes red from exhaustion. Lily remembered the nights she would sit at the kitchen table, waiting for her mom, staring at unfinished homework, and listening to her stomach growl. She never complained. Instead, she hummed, singing quietly to herself in the stillness of night, as if her voice could fill the empty spaces that food could not. Her mom noticed. One night, Angela leaned against the doorway, wiping sweat from her forehead, and listened as her daughter sang softly into a broken hairbrush, pretending it was a microphone. When Lily finally looked up, embarrassed, Angela just smiled. You don't even know, do you? She said gently. Lily frowned. Know what? That you were born to sing. From that day forward, music became her escape. Every insult at school, every night she went to bed hungry, every time she wore the same faded jeans again and again, she poured it all into her voice. Her songs weren't just notes. They were her diary, her secrets, her battles, her dreams. But school was unforgiving. The other kids noticed her old clothes, her quiet nature, her accent that still carried traces of her mother's Spanish roots. They laughed at the way she spoke, mocked the way she dressed, and some days they didn't even see her at all. At lunch, she'd sit alone, sketching lyrics on the back of crumpled notebooks. Sometimes she'd write about a life where her mom didn't have to work until her hands shook, where Daniel had new shoes, where laughter wasn't cruel. And in every one of those imagined worlds, Lily was singing. Her mother believed in her, but Lily didn't believe in herself. Not yet, not until fate, and a cruel joke from her classmates, forced her to face the very stage she feared the most. The school's annual talent show was supposed to be fun, a place for dancers, magicians, and singers to show off. But when Lily saw her name scribbled in bold letters on the sign-up sheet taped to the cafeteria wall, her stomach dropped. She hadn't signed up. The laughter from the group of cheerleaders nearby told her everything she needed to know. Can you imagine? One of them whispered loudly. She'll probably trip before she even starts. Another smirked. Asterisk, let's see how Charity Case Thompson entertains us. Asterisk, her first instinct was to erase her name, pretend it had never happened. But something in her heart hesitated. What if this was her chance? The thought terrified her more than it excited her. That night, she sat on the edge of her bed, hugging her knees. "Mom, I can't do it," she whispered. Angela knelt beside her, brushing a strand of hair from her daughter's face. Asterisk, Lily, don't let them decide who you are. If you walk away, they win. But if you sing, asterisk, she paused, her eyes glistening. Asterisk, if you sing, you'll show them the girl I see every day. The girl with a voice that can break hearts and heal them too. Asterisk. So Lily practiced. She practiced until her throat ached, until her voice cracked, until she collapsed onto her pillow in tears. There were nights when she slammed the notebook shut, furious at herself. Asterisk. I sound terrible. They're going to laugh at me. Asterisk, she cried. But Angela never let her quit. She stood by the door, whispering through the pain. Asterisk, greatness is born from struggle. Don't stop now. Asterisk, at school, Lily's nerves were tested even more. Every hallway seemed to echo with whispers. Some kids pointed at her. Others mocked her with exaggerated singing voices. One boy even yelled, Asterisk, better not break the mic, Thompson. Asterisk as she passed. Each word stung. Each laugh cut deeper. And yet, every night, she returned to the same spot in her room, clutching the broken hairbrush, singing until the walls themselves seemed to absorb her pain. The week of the show, she nearly quit again. Sitting alone in the auditorium after school, staring at the empty seats, she imagined the faces laughing, the cruel whispers, the humiliation waiting for her. Tears burned her eyes. She whispered to herself, Asterisk, I don't belong here. Asterisk. But then she closed her eyes and remembered something. Her little brother Daniel, standing on his tiptoes just a week before, had said softly, Asterisk, Lily, when you sing, you make me feel like the world isn't scary anymore. Asterisk. And in that moment, Lily made a decision. She wasn't going to sing to impress the kids at school. She wasn't going to sing for the ones who mocked her. She was going to sing for Daniel, for her mother, for herself. The night of the show was approaching fast, and though fear still lingered in her chest, so did something else, something stronger. Hope. The night of the town show arrived. The auditorium was glowing with bright lights, buzzing with chatter and excitement. Parents filled the front rows, teachers scattered around, and students packed the seats, waiting to cheer or laugh at their classmates' acts. Backstage, Lily's hands shook so badly she nearly dropped the microphone. Her breath came in shallow gasps, her palms damp with sweat. She peeked out from behind the curtain and saw the sea of faces, some clapping, some whispering, some already grinning at the thought of her failure. Her knees threatened to give out. She turned to her mother, who stood just behind her, her diner uniform still smelling faintly of coffee and fried eggs. Angela placed her hands gently on Lily's shoulders. Look at me, she said softly. Lily's wide, frightened eyes met hers. Asterisk, don't sing for them. Don't sing for their approval. Sing for the little girl who sat in her room and dreamed. Sing for Daniel. Sing for me. Most of all, sing for you. Asterisk. Lily nodded, though tears threatened to spill. She clutched the microphone tighter. Then she heard her name called. Asterisk, next up, Lily Thompson. Asterisk. The crowd erupted, not in cheers, but in snickers and whispers. Some kids elbowed each other, already waiting for the embarrassment. She stepped into the spotlight. The heat from the lamps blinded her. For a moment, she could hear her heartbeat echoing in her ears. Someone from the back shouted, Asterisk, don't mess up, Thompson. Asterisk, the laughter rippled through the rows. Her throat closed. Her legs shook. She wanted to run. She wanted to disappear. But then she thought of Daniel's words. Asterisk, you make the world less scary. Asterisk. She closed her eyes, took one deep breath, and then she sang. The first note floated into the air, soft but crystal clear. The auditorium fell into stunned silence. Her voice carried a rawness, a trembling beauty that no one expected. She sang as if the walls of the room disappeared, as if every ounce of pain she had ever felt was pouring out through her voice. The laughter died instantly. The whispers stopped. Teachers leaned forward. Students froze, mouths slightly open. Her voice grew stronger with every verse. She sang about pain, about hope, about rising from the ashes. She sang for every lonely lunch, every night of hunger, every cruel word thrown at her. She sang for her mother's tired hands and her brother's innocent smile. By the time she reached the chorus, her voice soared, filling every corner of the auditorium like a prayer, like confession, like a promise. Tears shimmered in Angela's eyes as she watched her daughter transform before the world's eyes. The kids who once mocked her now sat in silence, some with tears slipping down their cheeks. One girl in the front row covered her mouth, unable to believe the power coming from the girl they had laughed at that very morning. And then came the final note. Lily held it, her whole body trembling, her eyes still closed. It rang through the room, long and powerful, until it finally faded into silence. For a moment, there was nothing, no sound, no movement, just stunned silence. Then, slowly, the clapping began. One pair of hands, then another. Then the entire auditorium erupted into applause. Students leapt to their feet. Teachers clapped until their hands stung. And in the middle of the crowd, Angela stood crying, her face lit with pride. Lily opened her eyes. For the first time in her life, she wasn't invisible. She wasn't the poor girl in torn jeans. She wasn't a joke. She was a voice that no one could ever forget. The applause seemed endless. Lily stood frozen on the stage, her chest heaving, her eyes wide in disbelief. For so long, she had been invisible, the shadow in the corner, the girl nobody wanted to notice. And now, an entire auditorium was on its feet, clapping, cheering, crying. Angela rushed forward from the wings, unable to stop herself. She pulled her daughter into her arms, holding her tightly as tears streamed down her face. "You did it, baby," she whispered, her voice breaking. Asterisk, you show them who you really are. Asterisk, for the rest of the night, students who had mocked her only days before came up to her. Some were speechless, others mumbled apologies. One of the cheerleaders who had signed her up as a joke simply said, "I was wrong," before walking away, her eyes red. But the moment Lily would never forget came from her little brother Daniel. He ran to her after the show, his small arms wrapping around her waist. He looked up at her with wide, proud eyes. "You made the world less scary tonight," he said softly. That single sentence meant more to Lily than the cheers, the claps, or the apologies. The next day at school, things felt different. People smiled at her in the hallways. Some stopped her just to say how incredible she had been. The girl who once ate lunch alone found classmates asking if they could sit with her. But Lily knew something important. None of that mattered as much as the lesson she had learned on that stage. Because she had realized the truth. It was never about their approval. It was never about the applause. It was about finding the courage to use her voice, even when the world tried to silence it. In the years that followed, Lily kept singing. She sang at local community events, then small competitions. Sometimes she won, sometimes she didn't. But every stage she stepped onto reminded her that night. The night she transformed from invisible to unforgettable. And years later, when she stood in front of a much bigger crowd, lights brighter, audience larger, she still carried the same memory with her. The laughter, the silence, the tears, the ovation. Lily Thompson's voice had once silenced a room that wanted her to fail. And from that moment on, she knew it could silence doubt, fear, and pain too. To everyone watching her story today, maybe you felt invisible. Maybe you've been laughed at, doubted, or told you'll never make it. But remember Lily. Remember that sometimes the ones people try hardest to break are the ones who rise the highest. So whatever your voice is, whether it's singing, writing, building, or dreaming, don't hide it. Don't bury it because of their laughter. Because one day, your voice might be the one that changes everything. And when that day comes, the same people who laugh will be the ones standing to applaud.